While the university is commonly understood to be a place where different knowledge systems enter into dialogue and debate, the institutional structures of the university tend to acculturate and conscript different kinds of knowledge into their own existing categories for what can be known, how knowledge can be organized, and what forms of knowledge are legitimate and credible. The Different Knowing Speaker Series and interviews address the question of if and how the university can be a place of different knowings, different epistemologies, different knowledges.
Dub poetry goes to the heartbeat, the heart of the matter, the word. Um, it is a popular form. It's a form that you can be engaged in, and you don't have to have a university degree. People expect a poet to have a certain learning. Certainly, even with novelists, all novelists have some kind of level of education behind them, formal education behind them. But with poets, excuse me there on camera, with a dub poet, this is a form that emerged out of the people. You know, this need for voice, this need for articulating their own experience, this need of finding some kind of aesthetic beauty and connecting to rhythm and the dimensionality of words and expressing and communicating. We trace dub back to African oral tradition, right? The rhythmic life of the word, the heartbeat, the core of it, the griot, the comedian, the teacher, the preacher. We had, very fortunately for us, in Jamaican society, we had the figure of Louise Bennett, who took the Jamaican language, which in that time growing up, you know, and during the colonial time, was looked down on and associated with ignorance in the lower class. And she had the opportunity to go to the London School of Drama, work for BBC and all of that. And she did not step away from the language. In fact, she brought it with her. And she rose it, she brought it to the level of an art form, which is part of what dub does. It uses everyday speech and stylizes it into this artistic kind of form. So you're absolutely right. I mean, dub poetry, part of its intention is to disrupt, you know, traditional discourse. It is to call attention to whole life that's been ignored, that's happening, and that actually feeds the other life, you know, the sort of middle class and colonial life through its labor, through its style, through its energy, right? But it's been cut out of the discourse or in the images and so forth. So it calls attention to that. And the interesting thing, dub takes a lot of its cues from reggae. Of course, reggae takes a lot of its cues from Louise Bennett, right? And you know, that's, you can, I'm just dying to see that study when somebody can go. I've done some preliminary studies. Somebody can go back, for example, and see that the entire output of early Bob Marley, you know, comes from Jamaica Labrish, from Miss Lou being on the scene. So dub takes its cue from reggae that has an uncompromising and demanding stand. So it's not poking fun at, it's not going around the corner, it's not, you know, jostling. It is making a demand, you know, it is calling the system to account. So, you know, dub is pretty important in that way, because what that does too, in a cultural sense, then it lifts the people up. You know, it just said, this is your thing, and you know, this is the vision. Let's step into it. You know, so that's why you'll see in Jamaican culture you know, especially among Rastafarians and other people, a lot of dignity, a lot of forwardness, as them would say, a lot of feistiness, right? That is part of the movement of stepping into the big self and not begging or going hat in hand, but demanding your rightful place and, you know, some kind of equality and justice. The big problem now is that the publishing industry hasn't really moved that much. It's still most established poets, if you talk to them about poetry, they talk about their books. They conflate poetry with books, right? Which might be, unfortunately, I love books, you know, might be a little passing thing. You know, yeah, don't know how long. We can see that, you know. So you don't have to have a book to be a poet. And that's a product, that's a commodification. I mean, poetry belongs to the people. It's a service, it's a ritual, it's a spiritual, it's a communion kind of thing. And more young people are realizing that, you know.